I know that there was a lot of classical music that y'all fed into the machine, and everything is coming out clean. Does anybody know why? You're probably right. So how long has it taken to get Good Omens up in here?
Well, Terry Pratchett and I wrote the novel. The later Terry Pratchett and I wrote the novel almost 30 years ago. We failed to get a movie made almost immediately. We kept failing to get movies made. Eventually, we just handed it over to Terry Gilliam, who failed to get movies made for years. And then, a few years ago, Terry and I thought it might be a really good idea to try it as television. And we went looking for writers, and they all said, no, it's too big and too weird. And then Terry asked me if I would write it. And he never asked me for anything. We've been friends for, at that point, about 35 years. And he sent me a letter saying, you have to do this, because I don't have very long to live, and I want to see it before the lights go out. And then he died much, much faster than any of us expected, which meant I sat down to write the script for episode 1 shortly after he died. And now it was the last request. So I've seen it through.
What got you verklempt enough to come and do this?
How could you not? It was one of those impossible, I got the script and I was kind of cautious and said, I'll give it a week. I'm a really bad reader, slow reader. So an hour later I was emailing going, this is mine. On the basis of episode 1, it was just a world that was just amazing. You can't, as a director, you can turn it down.
Right. Had you met before?
No, we'd never met before, although we've got a very strong connection, as it turns out, with the head of gaiman that I come from, Whale of Skye.
I get to be a mackinnon by marriage.
Well, Michael, let's talk a little bit about, because you're kind of an interesting character, a Zero. Did you read that? Tell me how you got to this. Did you know the piece?
Yeah, so I should be over there, not here, because I'm a fan. I come from a small town in Wales, in the United Kingdom. Not as many from Wales as from Skye, it seems. And I had gone to drama school. I was an 18-year-old kind of, little Welsh boy, and I turned up in London, and I go to drama school, and there was a guy in my drama school called Gary Turner, and he said, do you read comics? And I said, I don't know. He said, right, here's The Watchmen, here's Hellblazer, here's Swamp Thing, and here's Sandman. Read those. And they changed my life. They literally changed my life. And so I became a fan of Neil's through reading Sandman. Then Good Omens came out whilst I was at drama school. Went out, bought it, read all of Terry's books, read everything by Neil. And it became, one of my favourite books of all time from that moment on. So to end up becoming friends with Neil, and then being part of bringing this story to the screen is, it really is like a dream come true. I just have to put up with these terrible actors.
That would do, yeah.
So David, how'd you meet? All right, y'all.
Love you all.
He's so tired. He loves you. You're not going home with him, but he loves you. So, had you read the books? Were you a fan? How did you get involved?
No, I didn't know this book. I don't know how I didn't know this book. Because this is exactly the sort of book I would have loved if I'd have been like Michael. The first meeting I had with it was reading episode 1, and I just thought, this is magnificent.
Yeah.
And what a fantastic character. This is delicious.
You were busy doing that doctor thing, weren't you?
Well, yeah, there was that.
Wait, Doctor Who?
Ladies and gentlemen, John Hackett.
You're a doctor? Come on, last name. Come on, first name.
It's the first time that joke's ever been made. I'm glad you're all recording it.
So yeah, I just read the script. I read the script. I thought this is delicious, and this is a double act.
Yeah.
That feels like it's always been there. Crowley and Aziraphale, they just make sense. They're like the Tramps and Godot. They're sort of eternal. And I knew that Michael was playing the other one. So I thought this is a sort of this is one of these jobs that just show up, and you're gonna go, whoa, how did you get so lucky here? This is delicious. It's fully formed brilliance. And I was very happy just to slot into that.
And you get to be a ginger!
And I get to be a ginger. I did get to be a ginger. All the feels, yeah.
Now, Miranda, I adore you forever. And so, we've seen you do so many wonderful things. What was it about this that you said, I'm going to go play Madam Jason?
Well, split personality. I don't know, I'm somehow drawn to that. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. And to play more than one character because I'm greedy. So I'm my own double act in this. It's kind of a great thing to do. And I came to the script, not the book. I'm so happy. I did. I will now go away and read the book. And name check, everyone that you could wish is in it, and to be part of that. And I'll be lucky because the storytelling is the best thing in the world. And Neil does it brilliantly. And everybody was just so great to work with.
Yeah, except for John.
I know. I said the right thing, right?
John Hamm. Had you been aware of the book? Did you know the book?
I did this for money. Amazon paid me so much money that I was like, sure. No, I, like Michael, was an immediate fan of the book and read it upon delivery to the world and was a fan of Neil's for some time. And then life did what it did and pushed Neil into my path at some point a couple of years back.
You lost that job, didn't you? That good job you had.
Yeah. Anyway, I got a chance to meet Neil in a sort of social setting, and we got to talking and professing our fanship for one another, and a few years pass, and I get an email in my inbox, as I was shooting a film in Atlanta, and it said, we're doing Good Omens, and there's this part that really wasn't in the book. Would you consider reading it or doing it or whatever? And I just wrote back, yes. I don't care what the part is. I know it will be awesome, and I'm super excited to do it. So that excitement carried directly through the actual filming of it and into even doing the press for it. So I'm still very excited. Also, I've never been to a Comic Con. Which I guess is a person that steals comics? I don't know.
Well, that's stolen comics and gone to jail.
Yeah, he's convicted of comic greed.
But here's the thing, John. Comic-Con fans, once you've come, they stay with you for your entire career.
Well, that's terrifying.
It's crazy, but I
5,000 people will follow you.
Just another Saturday for John.
I wondered, would you all like to see a clip? Why Queen?
Why Queen? Terry Pratchett and I had a joke before, just as friends, before either of us started writing the book. And that back in those days, the only things you had to play music in a car with were cassettes. And we both noticed that despite the fact that we couldn't remember having ever bought Queen's Greatest Hits, it was there in the car. So we just started our theory that any cassette left in a car long enough turned into the best of Queen. And it was a joke that we had, and when I started writing Good Omens, which was before Terry came in on it, it was a joke that I put in. I loved the idea of, you know, Crowley listening to Bohemian Rhapsody and then Bohemian Rhapsody turning into the voice of hell through the medium of Freddie Mercury talking to him and giving him orders, and that was where the joke began. That was Wycombe.
I love it. I love it.
That was even more important because he named his hamster Mercury.
One of the first concerts I ever went to was Queen. By the way, I've got Agnes's book here. This is mine. Anyway. No, I was a huge Queen fan from the beginning, so when I saw that Queen could be involved, it was amazing, and it's in the show.
I want to talk a little bit about one of the things that I've noticed in the books, and in your writing, is this idea of good and evil existing in the same person, that we are all capable of the best and the worst of stuff. Is that, am I accurate, kind of?
Yeah, I think you are. I mean, I think, you know, there's a line in the book that's also a line in the TV series about how you know, the greatest triumphs and tragedies of humanity are caused not by people being fundamentally good or fundamentally evil, but by people being fundamentally people. And we are, which means we are capable of amazing feats of goodness and virtue and magnificent self-sacrifice, and we can be evil, appalling, selfish, and that can be wrapped up in the same person. So the joy of that for me was that we had a demon who really likes being here on Earth and likes people a lot more than he would ever admit. And we have an angel who Crowley describes as just enough of a bastard to be worth knowing. And you know, you get the feeling that Aziraphale thinks that he's a slightly better person than he is, whereas Crowley is absolutely under no illusions about either of them, and is perfectly content to be not quite as bad as he ought to be.
I think the other thing is that when you see David and Michael together, the pair of them, it's almost like they create a third person that's somewhere in the middle, don't you? It's kind of, because they're such a great pair, their performances sort of merge. You've got a great line on this about the dancing together that you talked about.
Oh yeah, when we did the first table read, so the first time we'd ever, you know, set the lines out loud next to each other, and we'd known each other for quite a while, but we never worked with each other. We'd been in one film together, but we didn't have scenes together. So we'd known each other, and I'd been a huge fan of David's work, and so this was the first time we actually got to sit down and say the words. And I remember feeling like, right, well, you're in that area, that's your dance space, and this will be my dance space, and we sort of like bumping up against each other a little bit, and then eventually it just kind of clicked into a rhythm. You go, oh, we're really moving. This is kind of sexy. And
it was very sexy.
Very, very sexy.
And it just, you know, we just seemed to fit.
It's interesting as well, as when we did scenes, I remember you said this, Douglas, as each scene went on, the characters kind of occupy a different position each time, because usually one of them trying to get something out of the other. And naturally we would sort of, one of us would lean in on one scene, one of us would go out and another scene. You had sort of, you had to shoot around this kind of inevitability, didn't you?
Yeah, so good acting you're talking about, I think.
Well, I wouldn't be so bold.
No, it was very much like that, because that's very progressive. The pair of them have got different agendas that are changing and shifting, and that's what we reflected on very often on park benches in London.
Yes, a lot of park benches.
I've been on a lot of park benches myself.
And in a funny way, sorry, it just suddenly occurred to me that in a funny way, in the same way as people say there can be no dark without light, or there can be no light without dark, that I think of it as like, there can be no Crowley without Aziraphale, and there can't be an Aziraphale without Crowley, and that's sort of reflective in a philosophical point. Because you can't have good without bad. One is, you know, dependent on the other.
So your question is a very good one.
Thank you. And speaking of, you know, angels, Gabriel, you know, is kind of trying to take care of business. I feel like he's trying to trip you up. Did you feel like Gabriel was just,
He's an annoying boss. He's the most annoying boss you can have. Who wants that for a boss?
I mean, but you kind of look like Gabriel. I had a picture in my head of Gabriel, tall and well, I mean, so were you okay as the big second banana to God?
Yes. I mean, you're once removed from the best job. No, my take on him, and I think it was received well by all, was that he is that boss that you don't like for various reasons, but mostly because he is so certain of his correctness and his rectitude and everything else, but he's wrong. And you know, if there's anything that maybe some of us can relate to nowadays, is that people who are so certain of their correctness are wrong. I'm really fucking annoying. But in this context, hopefully, funny.
Well, do y'all want another? I want to ask you, because as I said earlier, you have done some wonderful television, wonderful movies. You're playing a character who has someone else inside.
Oh, certainly that.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I love having someone else inside. No. Too much? But as an actor, was it difficult? Did you have to sort of decompart? Did you have to do really two separate things? Tell me how you did it.
It was fun! I just have to say, well, the only thing I did do was inveigle Michael to have some sort of idea about how he might deliver the lines, because I came in later on, everybody had done quite a lot of work by the time I came on board. So we sat in a caravan and we sort of talked through the scene and how it might be, because Madame Tracy is channeling Aziraphale. He uses her. Somebody who looks like a fraud turns out not to be a fraud, turns out to be somebody who can actually do one of the jobs she does in life.
I know that character. Starts out as a fraud and then turns out to be able to do it. Yeah. I know how you feel.
Usually with us, it's the other way around. You know? But
I think I can feel a spin-off happening.
Which character? How many characters? All of them. Okay, I can go with that. So no, when we actually came to do there's a séance scene. Have I preempted? And during which I have many manifestations, and I have to say it was fun. I hope it doesn't look like hard work. It was just a great day, and I have Douglas to thank for that as much as anyone else, and some cracking support round the table, I have to say.
I just said a bit bigger a lot of times.
Yeah, a bit bigger, yes. Usually people are saying you just don't do too much. In this case, I don't think there was ever too much. At least that's what I'm hoping. So.
Well, I'm supposed to now. They didn't give me that clip, but you'll be okay with this. But I just so love you, I had to ask the question. So moderated conversation I just did. And now this is intro and cut to second clip. Didn't I just do this? Yeah. So now it's up for y'all. I get to open this up to fan Q&A. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to work. Oh, but there you are. You figured it out. TikTok, baby, ask that question.
So, a while ago I saw a YouTube clip of David on the last leg with his hair dyed red. I'm just curious, how long did you have your hair dyed red?
Well, Michael and I both enjoyed different hair for the duration of this job, didn't we? How long was it for? How long took this for? 5 months, something like that. Yeah, quite a long time. It was interesting. It's interesting living as a ginger. But all demons are ginger, so.
All gingers are demons. Sweet statements.
Hi, young lady. Because this is such an epic, I want to call it, what was the hardest transition from the page to the screen? I tried.
There's no moment in there that I go, it was really hard to take that thing from the page to the screen. It was...
I think it's the scale. I think it's the tricky bit. We had 240 speaking parts. These are only just 4 of them. And we had hundreds of locations. We've got thousands of CGI shots. So it's that's the trickiest thing, was relentlessly keeping the quality up that everybody here wants to see.
I mean, the toughest thing is Good Omens. It's this giant novel on which everything happens, and then it keeps happening, and then different things happen, and it just keeps going. And you don't normally, if you're shooting a TV series or a film, you get to sort of be in the same place for a long time. We were barely in the same place for 2 days running during a 120-day shoot. So it was the enormousness.
The other thing is that Neil and Terry created this world that is completely unique and of their twisted, brilliant minds. And actually, in the run-up to it, we talked about this. I was worried just about what is the tone of this, because it's not like anything else I've done. Is it a comedy? Is it a drama? It's somewhere in between the two. It's in a slightly heightened world, and yet it's a very real world. It's the kind of the bizarre and the extraordinary crashing into the mundane. It's all those things at once, and it felt like that was going to be quite a hard transition to make. And actually, what happened, I think, on the first day is we just sort of trusted this script, and if you just give into it, then this extraordinary, completely unique, idiosyncratic world just kind of emerges.
And I think we just sort of clung to each other, like survivors in the sea clinging to a bit of driftwood. I think that was the thing in a universe that has so much crazy stuff going on and huge epic things. In the middle of it all is just these two, I was going to say people, but they're not people, but these two beings.
Two beings on a park bench hanging out to each other.
Yeah, being very, very human when they're not human.
Which is kind of the story. It's about these two in the middle of madness, kind of going, we've got each other, hang on! And that's what we ended up doing as actors, I think.
Yeah, I always started thinking about, I can't remember which Beatle, but one of the Beatles saying that, they were asked, how did you cope with being the most famous? Like, no one had gone through that before. Like, what was that craziness like? And he said, well, the 4 of us went through it together, the 4 of us went through it together.
It was Mark.
Mark, Beatle Mark. And that gave them a special bond, and because no one else could understand what they were going through. And I think it was the same for Aziraphale and Crowley, that no one else can know what it's like to have been on Earth since the Garden of Eden amongst humans, and that's what kind of draws them together and makes them so bonded.
And we told Michael that they were the only two in it as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Brian. I'm from New Jersey, and I've got to say this is the most intimidating panel I've ever stood in front of in my entire life. I'm a huge Terry Pratchett, Neil Gaiman fan, and a huge Elmview fan. So what I wanted to ask was including Whoopi. What I wanted to ask was first, either or question. So for everyone on the panel, what is your favorite, besides Good Omens, what is your favorite either Neil Gaiman or Terry Pratchett work that you've read? And if you haven't read any Neil Gaiman or Terry Pratchett and don't want to admit it, what's your favorite part of Good Omens that's not a spoiler or too much for the show that you enjoy the most of the story?
I like that you put that get out clause in. Hugely respectful. Okay, Whoopi, what's your favorite?
Anasazi Boys.
Oh yeah!
My favorite book of Terry's is probably Night Watch. But he wrote so many amazing books, it's really hard to pick.
Mine is The Truth is in the Cayman in the Black Mountain.
My favourite Neil piece is probably Sandman, A Game of You. My favourite Terry piece is probably Mort. And my favourite bit in Good Omens, that I don't think is a spoiler, is there's one episode where we get to see, a large chunk of the episode is seeing how the relationship between Aziraphale and Crowley is developed throughout the whole of time. And we go through the history of the world, and that was really fun to do. And if it's anything like as fun to watch, I hope it will be incredibly satisfying for the audience to watch that.
That's also my favourite part of Good Omens, because we had so much fun making it, apart from anything else, and it's also a glorious kind of trip at the start of episode 3. Is it still the start of episode 3?
Yeah.
Okay. I grew up as a massive fan of Marvel Comics, so when...
Different panel.
When Neil Gaiman meets Marvel Comics, it's the sweetest of sweet spots for me.
There's 1602?
Yeah. My first experience of Terry Pratchett, which is very dear to me, is I did, and this is quite obscure, I did a BBC Radio 4 version of the Amazing Maurice and His Marvellous Omens. So that has a very dear spot for me.
American Gods. Something amazing. Am I allowed to mention the kids? Am I allowed to mention?
You're allowed to speak
I'm not-
about it.
okay. I just
Get the microphone, just do it.
Whispering into a microphone. Just sing the point.
Apart from all these guys, I'm so looking forward to seeing the kids in this, because I think they are amazing. Their focus and their, you talked about not being sure what world you were in, what tone it was. They're just on it. You're going to have such a great time seeing them.
Are you referring to me and David as the kids? It's very kind of
He does that.
He is referring to Adam, Pepper, Wensleydale, and Brian, who are absolutely fantastic. They really are. Can't wait for you to meet them and see them.
And Dog.
And Dog,
Yeah.
played by Oliver.
But earlier. And Milo.
Yeah, I too was an American Gods fan. I remember thinking, when I read it, like Good Omens, I was like, oh, I'm getting these references, therefore I am smart. And that's a good feeling to have when you're reading a book. And my favorite part of Good Omens, and I can't stress this enough, was the paycheck. Amazon are rich!
Thank you so much.
Young lady.
Hi, I'm Nibby. I'm from the Upper East Side. I had a question mostly for Neil. My favorite part of the book was the footnotes. How much do those play into the TV show?
They are in there.
Okay.
Some of them are in there a lot, some of them aren't in there. Some of them are actually dramatized and you will see them play out in front of your eyes.
And some you have to search for a little bit. So for the nuns, you see a table tennis table, but you don't see them playing table tennis.
But you do actually get to see at the very beginning of episode 3. There is for example, there's a conversation in the book that only occurs in a footnote where God says, "Where is the sword I gave to you, Aziraphale, to guard the gate of Eden?" And Aziraphale replies in the next verse, "Sword, yes, big sharp cutty thing, had it here a moment ago, put it down. I'm gonna get my own head next," and that's where we begin episode 3.
Thank you.
Hi.
I'm Scott. I'm from Brooklyn, and this is towards Neil. You actually kind of brought up one of the things my question was about, which is that one of my favorite parts of Good Omens was actually the footnotes. I love the kind of parenthetical humor / world building. I just wonder how it was to kind of translate that into like a more visual medium.
You know, it was enormously fun, and we are helped in this by having as the voice of God. And the voice of God really gets to be the voice of the book. Because one of the things that I realized when I came to start adapting it is the book itself has a voice and is a character. So the voice of God, as played by Frances McDormand, gets to comment on things that otherwise I could not actually put into the book, like the Witchfinder Army's bookkeeping system, or indeed, we actually open the entire thing with a very brief history of how the universe was not actually created 14 billion years ago, and so forth.
Thank you. Live long and prosper.
Different panel.
Before you ask your question, I'm afraid I'm going to be pissing a lot of you off because we're not going to be able to get to all the questions that you have, because I need you to ask your question, but then I need to, I guess, wrap this, and then there's another amazing trailer that I have to show you. So please forgive us. We're on a bit of a time frame, but don't be pissed at me. This is just what has to happen. So, yes.
Hi, I'm James. I'm from California. Neil, your work has been so influential on me. It's one of the reasons why I'm trying to write comics myself. I was just wondering, kind of again, touching on the process of adaptation. And you mentioned earlier about cassettes just transforming into Queen albums. So what kind of decisions did you make towards maybe modernizing the story, if at all?
Well, the story gets to begin, well, actually the story gets to begin 6,000 years ago, but then it rapidly moves to 11 years ago. And I like 11 years ago, because 11 years ago is in the past. So pasty things can happen there. There are still old-fashioned mobile phones, and you know, people are still using phone boxes and stuff like that. As we move into the present, we're in a kind of slightly nostalgic present, in that it's obviously current, but also I think it's fair to say that technology has not uniformly, just as in the world today, you will find bits of old technology just scattered around and things. You know, Crowley has an iPhone, but he also has a trim phone attached to an ancient answering machine on his desk because he's never bothered to change it. Aziraphale, on the other hand, has a phone that he installed very proudly as the latest, most modern thing possible in about 1934, and has not changed that either.
All right, I see y'all still standing there. Seriously, I gotta ask y'all to sit down because you want to see this next trailer, don't you? So forgive me. I'm not doing it on purpose, but this is what I gotta do. So, wrap up Q&A, see? And lead into teaser trailer.
Well, I think we have a while. No, we can keep going.
I'm sorry, I lied.
She's scared of you.
I lied. Come on back, y'all. If Neil says to come back, come back. Yes.
I'd say 10 more minutes of questions.
I think 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes of questions, so we go.
Okay, baby, go.
Hi, my name is Marilena.
Hi.
I'm really nervous. My voice is shaking. I'm sorry.
So are we.
I do have one request. Can I take a selfie with the cast? Or at least with the tennant because I love it.
Here's the thing, baby. I want you to turn around and look at all these people back there. Do you know how pissed they're going to be at you if these guys said yes and then said no to everybody else? So they can't do it, but they wish they could. But they cannot.
It's probable that we're saving your life here. There are 5,000 people who will tell you
Question.
we all live here. Do you have a question?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. So if you were to choose one of the episodes that you filmed so far, what would be your favorite episode and why?
Well, for Neil and I, we're making a 6-hour movie, so it's all 6 for me.
Yes, it doesn't feel like it's one big story, isn't it? And also, we haven't seen the edit, so we don't know what they've moved around and what goes where.
You're still in it.
Not if I had anything to do with it.
So, hello.
Hi. Didn't expect to get my question. I'm from Long Island, and this is cool. Mr. Gaiman, I understand you're a fan of the artist Anna Rosa, and I also know you got a copy of the Scrooge mystery documentary, and I was wondering if you had a chance to actually watch it yet.
I haven't had a chance to watch anything that isn't Good Omens.
I understand that.
No, life has turned into this thing where people come up to me and say, have you seen this thing that we gave you or sent you? And I say no. Which is mostly because Douglas and I sit in rooms and...
If I say to him, you know 23 minutes into episode 4 when that thing happens, he knows exactly what that is.
So yes, life these days consists of looking at screens with Good Omens on it.
I understand that.
One day it will be over. One day Douglas and I will leave each other and go back to our wives. Waiting patiently for us.
Just got to remember to go back to the right one.
You know, they're English, what do I know? Sir.
Personally, I'm Scottish.
Hi, my name is Darren from Long Island. I have a question for Neil and one question for John. To Neil, what would you say is the most difficult thing about writing for a comic book versus a book versus a TV show? And to John...
Ask him how much you got.
And to John, I apologize, I have to ask you, this is your first Comic-Con. I have heard rumors. Do you want to play the Batman?
The first rule of being the person who might play Batman is you do not talk about being the person who could ever possibly play Batman. You cannot even ask him that question. If you do, mysterious cowled figures will spirit you off in the corners and you will never be heard of again.
And I'll answer your question. But novels are the hardest.
That is the correct
Also, how great would a John Hamm Batman be? I'm excited. Are we excited, Comic-Con?
I would also like to mention that I'm dressed as a Zero
You
Fail.
are dressed as a Zero
My
Fail.
given copy of Good Omens from my mother, so it's been in our family. I was wondering what your favorite moment in filming was. Not the scene, just a moment while you were filming.
The thing that first comes into my mind, excuse me, is in the episode where we do go through history, and very handsome looking, I have to say. So when we were doing the going through history, and there's one little bit where we are at Shakespeare's Globe Theatre at the, I think, first performance of Hamlet, and no one's really shown up. And we were standing there in full, like, our versions of Elizabethan costumes with Crowley and Isabel, and we're in the actual Globe Theatre in London, and there was like a what they call drone camera that was flying like way up in the sky, and I had to stand there, and this drone camera had to come down and down and down, so it gets this aerial view of the whole place. I remember just thinking, this is bizarre, brilliant at the same time. So that was one moment that I loved.
What made that even more extraordinary was we had that, as you've just described, this enormous setup in what is the sort of most remarkable piece of set building there has ever been, which is now a working theatre. And that was just the first thing we did that day. We were there for 2 hours, and then we had to clear out and go and do 4 other scenes in other parts of London. That's how extraordinary the whole journey was.
My favorite part of shooting was not on camera. It was we had. a day that was miserable. It was cold and windy and rainy, and we were in the middle of a decommissioned army base somewhere up in northern England, and it was horrible and cold. But we would all, when we would finish shooting and they would have to set something else up, retire to this caravan. And it was the four of us and Michael McKean and Jack Whitehall and several other folks, and we would just sit around and bullshit and make each other laugh huddled in this little caravan, and it was so much fun. And we all kind of would riff off each other and laugh, and then have to bundle up and go back outside eventually and do the scene again. But that part of it was really fun. Making this was really fun, and I think that.
We also watch movies.
And we got to watch movies, which is fun. And you paid for it, which is also fun.
Miranda, what was yours?
I was going to say, you stole it.
Sorry.
The Room with a View. It was, and I did, in fact, take a picture of all of us because I had to, in our various looks, which I won't spoil for you. You're going to have that pleasure 2019, so hang on there, wait for it.
It wasn't really, we really were in this little caravan,
Yeah.
and sitting there having like, huddled around a little chocolate with death and pollution. It was really weird, wasn't it? Yeah.
Okay, hey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
I'm Tyler from Bethany, Connecticut. My question is mainly for Neil. You have this on TV, which is essentially a 6-hour movie, in addition to American Gods, which is an ongoing series. So what is it about these two mediums, these two works, that make them either an ongoing or a limited series?
I think that the great thing about American Gods is it is so huge and formless and contains so much that it's very easy to go, well, first season, that's the first 150 pages, and then the second season's the next 150 pages, but we can just go and make it bigger and weirder. With Good Omens, it has a beginning, it has a middle, it even has an end. And then it has stuff that happens after the end. So now it has even more ends. And it just felt like it had that shape. You don't look at it and go, we need this to be a giant continuing thing. You look at it and go, this is a gloriously constructed thing. And I sat down, the very first thought that I had was it's going to be 6 episodes long. And I hadn't even figured out how it was going to be 6 episodes long, but 6 just felt right. It felt like that kind of shape. And it's actually worked out really, really well.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Rochelle. I'm from Astoria, New York, and this is a question for everyone. What supernatural or superpower ability would each of you want to have, and why?
I would like to make time stretchy. So that if you need to get something done in time, you could just lean on like a Friday and it could just keep going until you were done. Because, and apart from anything else, from a Good Omens point of view, so many people who are looking at their watches and their calendars and looking at me and Douglas nervously would breathe an enormous sigh of relief if time would just a little bit stretchier.
Would you make it squishy also, so you could like get past horrible things like faster?
I think that should be your superpower.
Stretchy and squishy, it's coming. Amazon in 2020.
Who needs Batman?
Nobody else? Come on.
That's like a really, really pointless superpower. Like the ability to look like you're 2 millimeters to the side of where you actually are. Absolutely pointless. But impressive still. It's still breaking all the physics.
Like to be able to fly, but only like 2 inches off the ground. Speed bumps don't matter anymore. That's about it.
The soles of your shoes are immaculate.
I'd like to be a Time Lord.
I like mercury. I don't know what use it has. It's poisonous, so that's not much use.
Poisonous.
Well,
Yeah.
but you can't flow into things and flow out of things and, you know, change shape.
That'd be a cool thing.
It's pretty cool.
Which is made of mercury.
Mercury made.
Ooh.
Can I fly as well?
2021.
Can you help him with the mic? So, yeah. There you go.
I'm Adrian from Maryland. I have a question for Neil. In Coraline, if the other mother created everything, who created the other mother?
Oh. That's a fine theological question, young Adrian. I think the other mother is more like, she's like some kind of spider who builds a little web for things to wander into. So she definitely came from somewhere outside, but the entire world of the other house is her web.
I think you got him, Adrian.
By the way, so far the Isle of Skye got the biggest
Isle of Skye.
response any other way. Yeah. Sorry, Evelyn.
Do you think angels or demons have more fun?
They have most fun when they get together.
And there you have it. Okay. Hello.
Hi, I'm Brandon. I'm from Long Island. My question's for Neil, Douglas, and whoever else wants to chip in. My favorite aspect of the novel is Crowley's Bentley, and I would love to know what the process was to get that from page to screen.
Well, we got a real Bentley. Let me start there. But we discovered that because, as everyone here knows, it has to go really, really fast, that our Bentley could do 70 miles an hour, but only after an hour. Really slow building up. So our strategy is basically we've got a digital Bentley and we built an interior Bentley as well as the real ones. So what you'll see is a kind of mishmash of all three of them.
And because Terry and I didn't actually have any reference works and just made up 1926 Bentley in the book, we actually then had to go, when I was writing the scripts, I had to go and research my Bentleys. Possibly rather late, you might think. And,
I think you did it after we got the Bentley.
And we decided that, you know, it had to be a 1930s Bentley at that point, and we wound up getting a 1934 Bentley for the show. And, you know, it didn't hurt having the digital recreation, but it did hurt having to set it on fire, make David drive it, and of course blowing it up, which was, you know, it's a beautiful piece of machinery. It's really tragic.
It was a shame.
Yes.
Crying shame.
Crying shame. Well, we didn't really. Okay, so we should get on to...
Well, yeah.
We have time for one more quick question.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ariana from France, and this is a question for Neil. I'm a middle school writing teacher, and I study creative writing myself, and I was wondering if you had any tips for my students and me about finding our voices as writers.
My biggest tip for somebody who wants to find their voice as a writer is not to worry about finding your voice as a writer. Just write a lot. What you will find is that after a while, your voice is the stuff you can't help doing. Your voice is just going to be there in everything that you write. But you have to write a lot first. So it's as if you have... there was a beautiful Chuck Jones line where he says, you have a million bad drawings inside your pencil and you have to get them out to let the good ones come. And it's the same for words. Just get the words out, and sooner or later the good ones will come out, and the ones that sound like you.
I'm still working my way through the 1,000 bad performances I've got. Hopefully I'll get to the end of those one day.
So seriously now, we're going to wrap up the Q&A, but I'm supposed to let you know that when you do leaving the panel, you should grab a poster and a pen, right? And be sure to visit the Javits Center for the Good Omens experience in the Crystal Palace. Please play teaser trailer. Ladies and gentlemen,